So Arsenal lost to Tottenham Hotspurs 1 goal to nil during their Asian tour just yesterday. Now let's look at the tactical breakdown. Not like Arsenal played badly. No, 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 no. Now Arsenal dominated possession, but Tottenham Hotspurs won the game. Don't come for me. Don't banter me yet. Now, why did Arteta's men fail to break Tottenham Hotspur down? What actually happened? He had position, he had attempts, he had more passes, but what happened at the long run? Not like what happened against Newcastle. This is a different ball game altogether. Now let us look at structure and execution. Now Arsenal kept a very strong 3-2-5 shape during their build-up. These 3-2-5 were in the likes of William Saliba behind Jakob Kiwior and then Ben White. These were the three men behind, anchored the defense line, and then Norgard and Declan Rice in midfield as the pivot. Then the front five were Gabriel Martinelli, Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, and Lewis Skelly, the academy prospect, okay? And he stayed out wide. They were the five men up front in Tottenham's box. But let me tell you, ball possession and attempts off goal is not ball penetration. Trust me, you can't score with that. You must find the net. Imagine Arsenal had 16 shots, but there was only one shot on target. Tottenham had 6 and 1 on target. So there was no vertical spark. There was no chaos in zone 14. Let me tell you what zone 14 is. Zone 14, when it comes to football analysis, is that region between the 18-yard box and the other arc, the other semicircle of the center circle, okay? Yes, just in front there is a midfield thing, okay? That is what is called zone 14. The space or the rectangular box between the 18-yard box and then the other semicircle, like the other half of the center circle in your opponent's half. That is what zone 14 is. So Arsenal were little or no, or there was little or no effect for Arsenal in the zone 14 area during that match. A player like Eberechi Eze, who thrives well in this kind of zones, would have helped Martin Odegaard yesterday, but he wasn't in Arsenal and he's an Arsenal player. Okay, so Arsenal get Eze, he will help you next season. Okay, let's look at the second reason Arsenal lost. Okay, static wingers, and Arsenal had predictable routes. Now, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli often held with as they do usually, but instead of driving inside, cutting inside, or even underlapping, they received the ball to their feet. They did not receive the ball in space. I don't know if you get my point. They didn't run into space. They received the ball to their feet. It was too easy for Tottenham's fullbacks to defend. All right. Now, Tottenham Hotspurs sat in a compact 4-5-1 without movement inside the half spaces. Arsenal passed side to side. Okay. Now, this 4-5-1 was Vicario in goal, Jet Spence, Mickey van der Ven, Christian Gabriel Romero, and Pedro Porro in the defense. A midfield pivot of Rodrigo Bentancur and Pepe Mata Sarr, the goal scorer. Then Wilson Odegaard, Lucas Bergvall, and Mohamed Kudus and Richarlison up front. So out of possession, Tottenham fell back to a horizontal low block for the 4-5-1. Now, Tottenham basically maintained territorial control without making penetrative runs through central channels of Arsenal. Okay, that resulted in possession that lacked threat to Arsenal. So they didn't even disturb Arsenal. Okay, that's why when they got that one chance, Pape Sarr took it and the rest was history. We all know how good Frank is defensively. Watch him at Brentford, let alone now that he has a bit upgraded side like Tottenham Hotspurs. That is why I always tell people, watch out for Thomas Frank this particular season. Number 3, there was a lack of final ball variety from Arsenal. How do I mean? Arsenal forced several crosses from deep, which gave them low success. Okay, because Kai Havertz was up front, so there were no disguised passes from Arsenal as usual. There were just wall passes or even third man runs to disrupt Spurs' shape was not there. Okay, so the few vertical passes from Declan Rice were cut out easily due to poor receiving angles from whoever was receiving it, because their wingers were playing with ball to their feet. Why? Because creativity also felt overly dependent on Odegaard, but unfortunately Tottenham Hotspurs boxed him out with the likes of Pape Sarr and Rodrigo Bentancur in midfield. Remember, Tottenham Hotspurs also had absentees from their first team in that match. Okay, just like few Arsenal players were complaining, 2 Arsenal fans were complaining of absentees. Okay, only Kiwior and maybe White were not starters. Now, another thing was Raya's high line. David Raya played like a sweeper goalkeeper, which was okay. That's Arteta's usual team instruction and choice and style of goalkeeping, okay? Until it costs him that goal, which is something usual with sweeper keepers, okay? Now, Pape Sarr's goal came from a midfield turnover and Raya was caught off guard 30 yards off his line. There was no recovery speed and there was no awareness, which needs to be corrected quickly. It's preseason, yes, but it is not the first time Raya is positioning wrongly and his position is being questioned. So Arsenal need to reassess when they want Raya to play that high next time. Okay. Then set pieces. Spurs were so dominant in set pieces. We know that Arsenal are good in set pieces, especially last season. They had one cameo, one small distraction like that. Arsenal looked very vulnerable this time around from corners. Tottenham hit the woodwork twice, and then set pieces were like almost for 25 minutes alone. Okay, so Thomas Frank's fingerprints were all over that kind of ball play, and then clever near post routines, blockers, and they always targeted William Saliba's blind side. That is Thomas Frank's modus operandi. Arsenal still lack a defense that has a set piece identity. I don't know if it was because Gabriel Magalhaes was absent. I don't know if it was because lots of people were absent. But another thing was this substitution from Arteta lacked synergy. Trust me. He brought on Leandro Trossard, Victor Gyökeres, and Zubimendi in the second half, but Arsenal never truly shifted gears, even when they came. Gyökeres made his presence known in the box, but he was serviced wrongly. Spurs dropped to a 5-4-1 and then started blocking Arsenal. Arsenal continued to play, and then from the middle, and then with widths and then midfield overloads, even attack overloads. But there was no big tactical pivot and there was no breakthrough, even with the presence of the attack overload in the Tottenham 18-yard box. Alright. So what can Arsenal actually change about this thing? Arsenal should introduce more vertical one-touch combinations in zone 14 areas. Arsenal should use Victor Gyökeres' physicality to pin centre backs and create lay-off options. That is very, very perfect. Get Martinelli and Bukayo Saka inside more often to shoot, not to cross. More risk in possession. That is the problem. Drag defenders and break lines. Clear defensive set-piece responsibilities. This is very, very important. I don't know if it is because Gyökeres is here. That is why Arteta is now telling them to change, their game plan and all. Well, we'll see that coming when the season starts. So Arsenal, in summary, Arsenal had ball control, the game control, they had territorial control, and they also had talent. Yes, they had the ball at their feet. They played well, okay? But Spurs had compactness, they had the transitions with them, and they were the match winners. Can you see the difference? All right. So yes, it's just one game. Don't eat me. Don't finish me. It's just one game between these two teams. Yes. It is only preseason. Yes. It was an Asian tour. Yes. Some of the new players still have work to do. They have adaptations to do, acclimatizing and all. But the truth is, all Arsenal fans should know this, including Arteta. This is not to spite you, but it's to let you know that coaches are beginning to find Arteta out. It happens to every coach. There are coaches who are looking for an upgrade on their players for them to cause chaos in the Premier League. Frank is one of them. From Brentford to Tottenham is a big upgrade. Same thing happened to Enzo Maresca last season. Towards mid-season, coaches began to find him out. Okay, so Arteta has plenty of tactical fine-tuning to do before the real show starts. We know few players from the first team did not play and all. New players came and all. Energy level is low and all. In fact, if you watch that match, you will notice that Tottenham looked more fit than Arsenal players. Okay, but there is still room for improvement. There are still matches to play. Let them see your reaction and then let them know how well you want to play. Do you understand me? Have an identity, just like Arteta tells them. All right. Let me see your reaction in the comment section. Let us talk football matters.